Hello and welcome to my 11th video in the plant-based weight loss video blog. This has been a while in coming because I've got a couple of topics actually related to this channel that I've wanted to talk about, but there have been some things that have come up in the past week and a half which have really had me in kind of a down mood, and I just didn't feel like I could do a video about anything else without going off on tangents about this stuff and trying to get it off my chest. And so I have now decided that maybe what it's best to do to be able to move on, and try to cope with what's happening is just do a diary entry about it here. Talk it out. Whoever listens, whoever doesn't want to, I fully understand, but to get to the point, the first and, well, there's two bad things, really bad, that affect me here, and then a third one which affects me because I can't do anything to help my friend. First of all, Jeanette's been really kind of sick this past several days, running a temperature which has been subsiding now, but 2-3 days ago it was up close to 102, and it would just kind of bounce around between like 99.8 and 101.4, 0.6, and now it's below 100 and has been for the last day and a half, which is a relief. But excuse me. Ugh. She's also got a cough which affects her. It's like she says it's a tickle in the back of her throat, and it is a pretty bad cough. Sometimes she can talk and it won't kick in. Other times she'll try to talk and there will be a lot of coughing, and also she'll cough in her sleep, which, is not a good thing. And I don't think it wakes her up, but it makes it hard for me to sleep, and I'm having problems with that anyway because of my mood. So that isn't really a factor, I guess, in my life right now, but I've been really worried about her, and so we got paid. My disability payment came in Wednesday and yesterday, and I had her go and get some strong antitussive cough syrup, which she's been taking now, and hopefully that'll help. She's out right now, which is why I'm taking the time to do this video. Just went over to Walmart on the bus to get us a bunch of little mini ears of corn on the cob, which are something I'm addicted to and reasonably healthy and good to have around and to eat, when you're hungry. And broccoli florets, which are cheaper than the broccoli cut and stems junk that a lot of stores sell, that especially at the dollar store, if you buy their broccoli, you get so many bites that are that really tough stringy stuff on the stalk of the broccoli that you can't chew and really would rather not swallow. So there's kind of no point in buying broccoli from the dollar store. It's not fit to feed your dog, so why would you want it? So she's off getting us broccoli and corn, and she'll be back in a while, I guess. But I'm taking the time to talk about how she's been feeling. Also, her energy has been really low, and I don't know if that's because of the fact that she is also, diabetic, and that's playing havoc, or if there's something else going on. And one positive possible thing is that she also had a first interview at an Arby's, which they said they'd be calling people back for second interviews Monday of next week. So we'll see if she gets something there. Otherwise, you know, more of the same. No call, no job, which really has her bummed. And so being unemployed, uninsured, you can't just go anywhere and get medical care, obviously. So for her symptoms and her lack of energy and everything else, she's trying to get into some kind of sliding scale clinic or something, but she called one that's only 2 blocks from where we live here, a sliding scale place, and before they'll even see you, they want $80, which no way in hell do we have an extra $80. Even if we would have put off ordering a couple of things that we got out of this check, it wouldn't have equaled $80. So we went ahead and got me some much needed socks, because I've been wearing these little blue shoe cover deals over my feet, and Tuba Grip, which is like a compressive kind of a stocking, but it comes in a box in a roll, and you pull some out and then cut a length of Tuba Grip, and you wear it up your foot and up your leg to help stop any swelling from my edema and my lymphedema, and to ensure that no ulcers try to open up from said swelling. So we use the Tuba Grip and then these little blue booties, which really don't conform to your foot, and then the little thin elastic string in them will give out after a few days, and then you constantly have to pull them back onto your feet and make sure that you don't trip over them, because they might be hanging off and you'll step on one with one foot and go to take a step with the other foot, and then it's like your shoelaces are tied. So they're kind of dangerous. So we're actually getting me some real socks that will fit. Those were $7 a pair. And we went ahead and ordered Dr. McDougall's new book, The Starch Solution, off Amazon for $18, which I think is a worthwhile purchase. And this month, that's it for our discretionary spending. That's all we can afford, and that's with Jeanette's brother sending us the money he did to help with bus passes, and also my oldest brother promised a little money, but the first check he sent hasn't shown up, and it might be because he put the wrong zip code on, but I would still think that they could figure out our address from everything else. But if not, one check got lost, and so now we're waiting for a second attempt. Just a little over $100 to make sure that there's another bus pass or 2, and if not 2, then that, you know, we'll have money for food if we need that. So, and that's weird, because in all this time we haven't asked anybody to help us or to send us money, and now we're having to do that, and it's really kind of a blow to my ego. But anyway, you know, Jeanette can't afford a sliding scale clinic because they want too much up front, so there is a program where you can get a medical card, which is for kind of like Medicaid, and the waiting time for that is over a month just to get in for the appointment for the, you know, financial means testing, blah blah crap, which they said that with my disability and the food stamps that she more than qualifies. So if she still doesn't have a job, at least they can check her out, and if she needs medicine for anything, then they can get her on some of those $4 prescriptions that everyone's selling, like Metformin or whatever. And excuse me, I need a quick drink here. So there's that. That's what I've been, you know, Jeanette and I have been going through with how she's feeling and trying to get her some help. The other thing that really has me feeling bad is that my oldest cat, who I got she was a little stray that hung out around the house of a girl I was sort of kind of dating, I guess, back in 1999, 98, 99, and nothing ever came of that, which is probably a good thing, because when it all, balanced out, she wasn't exactly my type. She was really deeply Christian, supposedly, and wanted a Christian guy, and that's not really what I am, so... But anyway, I used to come over to where she lived. She worked as a live-in nanny, and I'd come by and visit, and one day in the backyard was this little orange and white kitten, which that family said, was a stray, and the girl and I were going to go off to see a movie that day, but there was still time. I showed up really early, so I went out into the backyard and picked up the little kitten, and she was just a doll, just so sweet, and wanted me to hold her and didn't want me to put her down. And so I was out there in the backyard, and the girl came out too, and we just hung out back there with the kitten until time to go drive to the theater. And then about a month later, it was my 30th birthday, and she was like, we went out for dinner together that night, and after that was done, she was like, come on over, and when you drop me off, I want you to come in even though it's late and everybody's asleep. I got something for you. And so I went in, and they had brought in the kitten, who, of course, she was a female, so by this time she was very pregnant. But there she was, not quite fully grown, about 8-9 months old, pregnant and happy to see me again. And I was like, well, I'm not going to let her, die from the elements out there in the neighborhood or get caught by animal control. And at the time, I wasn't living in Las Vegas. I was actually living in a town about 60 miles west, almost to the California border, called Pahrump. So I took the cat, drove her home, and I had my mom staying with me, simply because if I didn't allow her a roof with me, then she would have gambled away every penny she could and bought cigarettes with the rest and stayed in a shelter, even though her Social Security benefits were enough to afford a really cheap place and food and electric and cable television, not much else. But all she did was gamble. Every month her check went into the slot machines, other than what I made her pay, which was about a third of it, about $350, less than a third. And then she did what she wanted with the rest, and I let her stay, and that was that. So I brought the kitten back to Pahrump, and my mom was like, oh no, what did you do, bringing a cat in, oh no, at first. But within a week, she was just absolutely thrilled. We ended up naming her, I called her Marmalade because of the orange and white, and Marmy for short. And she kept my mom company when she was home for 3 weeks out of the month when she had no money. Just watching whatever on TV when I was out at work or away. And for the past since March 17th of 1999, I had to go get her fixed, and she couldn't have the kittens. I couldn't have, 6, 7 cats in my trailer I was living in, and that really broke my heart. I would have loved to let her have the kittens and just give them away or something, but the landlady would have found out and thrown a fit and probably threatened eviction, blah blah. So I had to let the vet take care of everything all in one fell swoop. And since March 17th of 1999, I've had little Marmy with me through all the places I've lived and everything that's gone on. And she's been a tremendous comfort to me at times when I was severely depressed over dating or not dating, or dealing with my weight and health issues and the whole food addiction thing, and trying to cope with my mom at times, which was really hard. She's been here, and I'm really thinking it's her time. Her weight has plummeted recently, and she's not eating, and when we're eating, she comes around every time, sitting down at our feet and looking up and meowing plaintively like she's always done, begging for food. And I know all of her favorites. Back before I went on the McDougal thing, she loved little bits of donut and bread and hot dog and shrimp and chicken. And of course, now that I'm doing the McDougal and staying away from those foods, there's corn and peas, which she just loves, and little pieces of pasta, whole wheat pasta, stuff like that. And we've even gone to the point of telling our roommate, when you cook chicken or pork or whatever the hell it is you're out there making, cut a couple little bits off for us to try and feed Marmy. And whatever we give her, I don't care. Even if we chew it up a little bit, like, a mama bird for her new hatchling, we'll put it down on the ground and she'll try to eat it. She'll have it in her mouth and she'll chew and stuff and maybe swallow part of it, but most of it will end up right back on the floor, and she'll walk away, but to another position where she'll continue looking up at us, meowing for food. And she's not drinking very much. She is drinking water, but not a lot. Sometimes she'll go and get it out of the tub where we keep the water dripping, because most of the cats just love to go in there, and it seems to help them with grooming, and they wet their paws and they groom there by the faucet, or they drink the water from the faucet, and the water will collect down around the tub drain and they'll drink that. So they love that. So she goes into the tub and sometimes to the water bowl. But she's good at sitting at the food bowl now and just sitting there, not eating, just kind of drifting off. And then after a while she walks away and goes back to a sleeping place. And she probably weighs half what she did. She was chunky. She was up around 9.5 pounds, and she's small, so ideal would probably have been 7.5. But she was a little bit chunky, and now all of a sudden I don't think she's even 5 pounds. And she's just wasting away, and we cannot afford to get her to a vet. And I've just been feeling depressed and physically sick, having a very hard time even coping. either I can't sleep at all to the point where my mood just goes to hell because I'm so sleep deprived and I'm just, crabby and recalcitrant and bleh. Or I sleep and that's all I can do. There's really no happy medium right now. And I have been exercising, but nowhere near enough. Part of it is that I still have pain with doing the bike, and part of it is right now just no motivation. And my weight is officially below, well, not officially, I consider Sunday weigh-ins to be official, but unofficially I'm below 316. I've been between 313 and 315 the last couple of times this week that I've snuck a peek. So I'm hoping I don't, retain some water or something and end up back to 316 or higher on Sunday so I can have an official loss, which would at least be one piece of good news right now. And, of course we have another cat, which is Jeanette's cat, who's going on 12. And back when she was working that commission job with the phone company, we used one of her little checks to take him to the vet, which was $40 just to get in the door, and that's all we could pay. That's all we had. That and another like $8 for a prescription, some liquid antibiotics. They couldn't run any blood tests or anything, but just based on how he was breathing, he had fluid in the lungs. He would get gurgly when he was breathing sometimes and was getting really bad. They gave us these antibiotics, which thank goodness have helped. He's not back to 100%, but for this past couple months he's been almost as good as new. And I'm hoping that he will stay that way, because I think a second cat with illness who I was afraid was about to die would just be too much. These cats are like our kids. And that makes me think, we can't take care of a cat. What if we had a child right now that got sick? What would we do? I mean, so, part of me right now is like, I wish I didn't have the cats at all, because I can't bear seeing Marmee suffer. I can't deal with it. I mean, I just can't. And it makes me feel like, I have to remind myself I've given her a home and a really happy life and lots of attention and love and food and scraps and memories for over 13 years. But part of me feels like I never should have even taken her in, because now when she really needs me, I'm just sitting here watching her weight plummet and watching her suffer and get tired and weak. And if it's her time to be put down, I can't even have her put down humanely and just stand there and pet her while they give her the injection to, So yeah, and it just sucks. This really just sucks. And then, while all this is going on, one of my best childhood friends, and excuse me, I need another drink. Sorry. Alright. One of my best childhood friends, who I met him in 1982, winter 82, maybe January, February '83. I just remember it being winter and cold by Las Vegas standards, and one of the nearby casinos up in North Las Vegas, where my mom would do her, monthly blow the check ritual, except for the bare minimum necessities. Actually, no, I take that back. There were two that did not have an arcade, but there were two that did. And it was around monthly check time, and so she was at a place way up on North Las Vegas Boulevard called the Silver Nugget, which is still standing. And I was there with her in the arcade playing games, and this other kid was there named Danny, and we ended up talking and playing competitively, and I found out that he lived about 1.5 miles away. But back then I was 13, 14, and definitely a really chunky kid. I was up in the 200s and about 5 feet 10, but I was always out walking, sometimes really long distances, to different stores, and when I had extra money in my pocket, 7-Eleven for a drink, and of course 7-Elevens always had the arcade games back then, and that's what I did. My favorite hobby, next to music, was arcade games and video games, and my Atari at home, Atari 2600. But anyway, I'm going off on these long-ass tangents again. Just kind of free-flowing, letting the words come out. Danny became one of my best friends, and now, definitely one of my best friends, because out of all the other people that I met, and there were a number of them, there's only one other that I'm in any kind of contact with at all. And there were 6, 7, 8 others who I miss dearly, but for whatever reason, I don't know where they are, or we're just not in contact anymore. But Danny has been more like a brother than a friend. Since both of my brothers are so much older than me, and were gone, before I even started school, I know them, and I've spent time with the oldest one especially. He's the one trying to send us a little bit of extra money to cushion, and hopefully the second check won't get lost. But they were family, but they didn't feel like brothers the way that a sibling close to your own age would feel like a brother. And Danny felt like a brother. He was raised by his grandparents because, a lot like my wife Jeanette, his biological mother had serious handicaps to being an effective mother, and I think hers were just not a very high IQ and other mental issues, whereas with Jeanette's biological mother and father, they were both, free love, total druggies, late 60s, early 70s. They were big into all of that, and they couldn't stay sober well enough to raise Jeanette. And there are definitely, you can tell that the mother did drugs, because Jeanette does have some birth issues from that, but thankfully they're very minor. She could have come off far worse. She's more intelligent than average and has so many things going for her, but I'm wondering if she's not on the autistic spectrum, maybe Asperger's or something. I don't know why I'm going off into this, but it has, I guess, a lot to do with her work history and stuff like that. She's never had a problem relating to me, never had a problem talking to me. Very rarely do we even get snippy with each other, let alone argue. I mean, when I'm really frustrated or she's really frustrated, we might have a moment where we're like, well, damn it, I can't get this to work, or what's going on, and we're like yelling, but not at each other. We're just venting because we're momentarily frustrated. And the other of us will be like, alright, you don't have to yell at me, just chill out. And we do, and that's that. We don't argue, we don't fight. And you can't ask for better than that in a relationship. I mean, both of us know better than to think that there's any point to fighting, so really we don't. I mean, the maddest I've ever been at Jeanette was when I was dealing with my plantar fasciitis and in so much pain I couldn't do my last casino dealing job. I was literally walking to and from work, which we lived about 3 blocks off of the strip in one of those weekly efficiencies at the time. And I would walk to and from work, and I had an actual medical boot, a really tall, thickly insulated, padded medical boot for people with sprains and whatever. And I would walk to work and back in that thing, and then put my regular working shoe on sometimes, or just leave the boot on because the foot pain was so bad. And, God, I don't even know oh, yeah. So, finally, I had to go ahead and ask for what passed for sick time at that job, where if you had to be out of work with a doctor's note explaining why, then for up to 2 weeks you could collect the tip portion of your income. You wouldn't get the minimum wage that they paid us and that they pay most dealers. It's all about the tips. So you would, for 2 weeks, you would get the tips. And so I stayed out for 2 weeks while they put a cast around my left foot and left leg to keep the ankle still, and for me to stay off my feet and rest. And they were giving me huge doses of prednisone and one of those other anti-inflammatories, which was the worst thing I could have done, taking that, because prednisone and those other anti-inflammatories, on top of doing all kinds of other things to you, can cause massive water retention, and I already had water retention, so the cast came off and I blossomed in a whole new rash of ulcers, which ultimately led to my stupendous weight gain and everything else this past few years. Anyway, yeah, another tangent. One time I really got completely pissed off for a little while. She went to go get my paycheck. I cleared it with the management for her to go get it. So she went and got my paycheck, and I walked the much shorter distance over to the Hard Rock Hotel, where I always cashed my checks. I was able to do that, even though it felt like hell, and I was walking on this cast and everything, and it was just shitty, pardon my language. And it happened to be a really windy day, just like with this bus pass. She had her backpack with her, which she carried to go shopping and whatever, which she planned to do with the money from the paycheck after I cashed it. But she put the check in the pocket of her jeans and rode down to the hotel, on the Hard Rock Hotel, on her bike, and lost my paycheck out of her pocket in the windstorm. And rent was due, and you had like 2 days to come up with that money, or they came in and literally threw your stuff out and you had nowhere to live. And if it wasn't for another friend of mine who I haven't seen in a long while, I need to track him down, but thank God, a friend was there to loan us enough money to cover the rent and some basic food until I got a replacement check. But when she was standing there feeling in all her pockets and that check was gone, I just remember yelling some things. I didn't call her any names, didn't, threaten anything, but I stormed off. And no, that's right, I was on my bike. I wasn't walking. I was able to ride my bike, sorta, kinda, even with the ankle frozen in place. But when that check got lost, I had all kinds of energy, and I think I made it back from the Hard Rock to our apartment in about 4 minutes, completely winded, out of breath, swearing, just wanting to throw stuff, just so freaking mad. And she got home maybe, I don't know, 5-10 minutes later, just completely in tears. And I was still mad. I was like, damn it, how could you be so careless, and what the hell are we gonna do now? And I just went into the bathroom and locked myself in there for 3-4 minutes more to calm down, and then I came out and I was like, alright, I can't stay mad at you, mistakes happen, let's figure out what we're gonna do now and hope we don't end up in the streets. At least I'm still working. And that was pretty much the end of that. And then things did, thank goodness, end up working out. But anyway, my friend Danny, he was there for me when my mom was drinking and just psychotic at times, yelling and screaming and telling me to go to hell, and when I didn't even do anything, just she would rant. And it didn't matter if I had a friend over, she would talk to my friend about how evil I was every time I'd slip away to go to the bathroom or something. And then my friend would go to the bathroom and she'd ask me why I had this friend and what's wrong with them for, whatever list of just stupid stuff. It's like she tried to insert herself into any friendship or relationship that I had, and he was there for me throughout all of that. And even more, this goes into supernatural territory here. After I had moved out, away from my mom, I was trying to go to college at UNLV, failing miserably. It's like I was just going through the motions. I didn't see a future for myself. I did not believe in myself. I did not care. I was just kind of taking up space in classrooms and dropping classes because I'd get behind, and maintaining horrible grades, and just many people I'm sure can identify. Anyway, I couldn't take any more, and I had been thinking of suicide for years. I mean, all the way back into early childhood, there were times, like after my dad dragged me by a foot up the steps and throw me into the bedroom because I wouldn't eat something on my plate. I couldn't stand my family, and I remember, just wishing I didn't exist. And, that turned into years of being passively and then ultimately actively suicidal. I was in my first apartment away from home, and the situation with college was bad, and my roommate was a friend of several years, but he lost his job as a cashier at a grocery store because he came up short on the register. And so he was out of work, and he applied for unemployment and then wouldn't send in the weekly claim cards because he was trying to say he was too proud. Well, even though, back then you could get unemployment even if you were fired for something like, potential theft, which I didn't think he stole out of his drawer. I think he just messed up. Because he did have a bit of an absent-minded streak, which a lot of people do. And I think maybe he just made wrong change once and gave somebody too much and ended up short. So I was just working this little part-time job, barely made enough to cover my rent, and my food consisted of 2 25-cent frozen burritos and 2 25-cent fruit pies in the morning, and the same thing in the evening. I ate on $2 a day, and this was back in '89. That was how I survived. And, given my mental state, my emotional state, and everything else going on in my life, no one worth anything was going to want to date me, except ironically for one person who I didn't recognize that I had some potential there until it was way too late. But, wasn't dating anybody, was completely to myself, didn't have money to go out and do social things, and if I did, someone else would offer to pay, so I felt like the scum of the earth. And I just decided I'd had enough, and I forget exactly what day it was, but I bought 2 bottles of sleeping pills, and I gulped them down, and I never went to the hospital, and nobody found out for a number of days, even when I was still completely screwed. But I remember I gulped them all down at midnight, laid down, and 6 hours later I was crawling to the bathroom to pee. So I knew that didn't work, but I was too weak to move much at all for about 4 days. And I remember not the day after, or not the day of the attempt, because it was at midnight, but the following day there was a knock at the door in the early afternoon, and I couldn't get out of bed and to the front door in time. But I did make the best effort I could, and there was no one there when I answered. But the next day he tried again, and it was Danny, and he showed up because he just knew intuitively something was wrong. Our phone had been cut off because the roommate didn't have any income, and he ended up having to move back in with his parents, and I was left holding the bag on the apartment. And what ended up happening was that another friend of mine had a neighbor with an open bedroom, and I ended up staying there until I could get a job and get back into a place of my own. I was saved from homelessness, but I made that attempt on my life, and it was probably my body weight that saved me. I was about 245, 250 pounds. I was working at a warehouse for Service Merchandise, the old catalog showroom, which is no longer in business, but they had a warehouse here in Las Vegas, and that was where I was working. And it took me over a week to be able to go back to that job and lift anything without losing my balance. And I just remember being so hungry and so dehydrated because I wasn't eating or drinking or anything. But somehow my friend Danny knew. He just knew. And so 2 afternoons in a row he came knocking, and the second day I could answer, and he was the first person I told. I didn't even tell my roommate. I don't think I ever told him. I think he found out inadvertently because I was talking to other friends when he was there. But I didn't go to him, and because he could draw unemployment to get money for us to be able to live and wouldn't do it. And I was just, you don't let pride stand in the way of survival, it's just, anyway, maybe I'm way off base. I mean, maybe it's, all about the bootstraps. Bootstraps! Bootstraps! But, sometimes I think social safety nets aren't such a bad thing. But hey, that's just me. So, anyway, my friend Danny, we have always stayed in touch, although it's at times been gaps of years in between, even 10 years or more. But he tracked me down on Facebook, and I found out that he's out in Illinois. He's got several kids. He's been married twice. He's got a little place of his own that's apparently really in need of repairs, but it's a place, and he's got animals, and he tries to grow things in his yard, I think. Don't quote me on that, but he's got dogs and cats and kids of his own, as well as some that he's kind of adopted and let share his place with him and his wife. And I've known since we got back in touch that his wife had brain cancer, which the onset, the knowledge that it was there came about when she just had a sudden seizure at work about a year ago. And so they got her to the hospital and ran the tests and found out. And while I'm going through all this stuff with the cat and with Jeanette being sick and worrying about, a check arriving to help cushion us so we can afford what we need, I find out that his wife has just been given 3 to 12 months to live. And so all I can think about is wishing I had enough money for a Greyhound ticket or a car of our own, and enough money for gas to get out there to Illinois and rent a room at a Motel 6 or a Super 8 for a week, and just spend a week of evenings with my friend and be there for him, and give him a shoulder to cry on and someone to vent to and old times to talk about. And I know I probably shouldn't, but I just feel so bad because I can't get out there, can't do anything. So I'm feeling powerless about my cat buddy who's been with me for nearly a third of my life, and we're waiting a month for Jeanette just to be able to be seen and find out if she needs metformin or something to bring down her blood sugar, or if there's some other problem. And then there's this whole social anxiety kind of thing that she's developing about the job hunting, where every day, before she goes out the door to try and look, I'm having to talk her down and give her a pep talk, and otherwise she just loses it because she's been out of work so long. So there's all this shit going on, pardon the language, and I feel powerless about all of it. And at least the one thing I can say is, in the past, something like this would trigger epic eating binges, and I'd be gaining 3, 4, 5 pounds a week with no end in sight because I wouldn't know how else to cope. But again, you know, I'm down another couple pounds, at least unofficially. I'm still trying to exercise and work through the pain and do the things I know I need to do. I'm still hanging in there, and I guess it's probably a good thing that I spent the time to make this video and get all this stuff off my mind and out into the ether, because I do have actual related topics that, you know, to the channel and its main purpose that I want to talk about. I want to talk about these people that you see. When I log into my channel and I see my recommended videos, because of the way I have this tagged, there's a lot of recommended videos about obese people and all that, and eating disorders and stuff. And it's inevitable that I will have a bunch of recommended videos about, you know, this or that lady or this or that guy who eats 10,000, 15,000 calories a day and wants to weigh 800 pounds. They're in these, you know, feeder-feedy relationships where they just sit and eat and gain weight, and somebody's telling them, oh, you're so sexy, let's get you up another 20 pounds or 50 pounds or 100 pounds. And I want to talk about that. I'm not going to do it now, but I will say this much. When I was up over 500 pounds and eating, you know, like it was the be-all end-all of my existence a lot of the time, I did not approach it from the angle that, well, next week I want to gain another 5 pounds, or by next year I want to weigh 600 or 700. I mean, I was mortified about my weight. I knew it was bad, but the food addiction trumped the health concerns until I got drastic, because there was no other option. But these people who purposely want to become what I was, or worse, because they think that it gives them, you know, sex appeal to somebody who's bringing them piles of food every day. These stories never have good endings, and there are some videos, not nearly as many, but some videos about the aftermath of that. And I want to vlog an open letter to some of these people who may be just getting into that lifestyle. And I want to just address it all and hope that maybe someone will watch the video and it will give them pause to reconsider. Because I don't want to see other people's lives destroyed by food and overeating and the health problems the way mine nearly was. That it's horrible, it's not worth it, and it's just preventable. And it's not what people think it is in the end. It just isn't. So I want to talk about that, and I have other things as well. And every day for over a week I've sat here, whether Jeanette was here or out, and I think I better record a video. And then I'd realize that before I could talk about any other topics, I had to vent this out. And then I'd be like, well, why bother? Can I even do that? And so now at least here I am, I've done it. I've said what I've needed to say, and from here I'll move on with more on-topic stuff. I do have another rant or two that I will probably end up putting on here, but once I've gone over these things once, I think that other than just momentarily updating on them, I won't need to go on for nearly an hour like I have here. And the time has just gotten so away from me, so I do feel a little better. And I hope that I'll continue feeling a little bit emotionally more with it and on solid ground, and that things will improve. I'll keep y'all updated about the cat. One of the things that Jeanette is off at Walmart buying is she's looking for canned baby cat formula to try and feed Marmee with a dropper, hoping that maybe that'll stop the weight loss and keep her floating along until she can get a job, and we'll have a paycheck to take her to a vet. And I know that's all probably not going to amount to anything, but I fully support her decision to do that, and I hope it does help. And I don't want to lose my cat. It's just so freaking depressing thinking about it. Over 13 years. So anyway, if you've made it through all of this, I really sincerely and from the heart thank you for listening. And any comments or whatever will be appreciated. I'm not looking for anybody's pity. I never am. Somehow we'll get through, but suggestions and sympathy and anything else that you would care to offer, if you want to, maybe just a thumbs up, anything like that would be most appreciated. So thank you for watching this, and I will be back again shortly. Goodbye.